Welcome to another episode of Little Talks, your weekly dose of marketing news and insights from Littlefield Agency.
Welcome back to another edition of Little Talks with Littlefield Agency. I am Sam.
Roop.
We are back, and as you can see, we are slowly transitioning into our new setup here.
Every week's been different.
Sarah did a heck of a job with Taylor last week. I think we gave them a shout out for, that's right, my camera's over here now. This is interesting.
Right there.
Thank you, Brandon.
That was what I was wanting.
They've done a great job on this wall. You're going to see this come to life over the next, probably a few weeks. Ben said it's going to be done in March.
Yeah, I mean,
March is next Friday.
Yeah, we're coming together.
But Brandon, look at this. This is a new arm. Is it an arm, Brandon? Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not watching and you're listening, we have had multiple ways to position the mics. And one of the main problems that our producer, Brandon, has, which is this will be on part of the topics today, on topic for us today, is Sam likes to move around a lot.
I just moved.
Yeah, he just moved. So like he'll move further away from the mic to the side, like all. So Brandon found these arms that are pretty good to put the mics in. I think in a neutral spot. Five fingers from the mic.
This is going to be great as we talk about our main topic today.
Yeah.
So anyway, Brandon, great job. I know that you got the thumbs up. Maybe a quick verbal acknowledgement.
No, he says no. No.
Brock is at ARA with Ditch Witch this week. We also have a client, Magni America, is at ARA as well. It is in New Orleans. Crazy fun time down in the South. Brock is traveling back today. He said it's been an awesome show. We want to give a shout out. Scott Peavy has been on the ARA board for many years and received an award on Sunday for his dedication to that board. So Scott, congratulations on behalf of the agency. It's a really cool thing. And Brandon, if we can get a round of applause for Scott Peavy. I love it. That is wonderful.
You're going to need an assistant for the soundboard, I think.
And then I think I found one.
Yeah, I got someone in mind.
Back there.
Yeah.
And then we've got, Mike was supposed to be here on Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday.
Mike got this stomach bug or the inklings of it and a fever. And anyway, buddy, we hope that you feel better. And but the nice thing is he will be here this coming Tuesday. Chelsea has moved everyone's meetings off the calendar. And so, Mike, we accommodate you. We welcome you. It is a very packed day, so we will not have Mike on the podcast, but he will be on the podcast once this wall behind us is finished. We can't wait.
Yeah, it's probably late March or April. That's what we're thinking,
How are you doing?
Allergies are destroying me today.
Do you know why the allergies are destroying you?
It has to do something with, I'm sure, waking up to 30 degrees and going home to 72.
Yeah, it's 72 degrees in the Midwest. Yesterday was absolutely stunning. It's between 70 and 82 over the next 7 days.
It's hard to know how to dress because this change is so drastic every day. I don't care for it.
Are you sniffly?
I think I can feel it back there. I've got enough to get through the recording here, but then I'm
You've got 15 more minutes in you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank God. Well, let's. I'm sorry that you have the sniffles. Spring is supposed to be early via the. Do you know if the groundhog has a name?
It's Puxahani Phil.
Yeah. Julie Swab told me that today. Did you know that?
Everyone knows that. This is why you're not on the trivia team, Sam.
That's fair enough. I do need to come to Littlefield Trivia, though.
Yeah, we'll update people on that later.
Puxahani Phil.
Yeah, that's his name.
Is that new?
No, it's very old. That may be even back to like the 1800s. I don't quote me on that, but like that's the guy's the groundhog's name. And when a groundhog passes on and a new one takes up the mantle, he just becomes the new Puxahani Phil.
Oh, Puxahani.
Yeah, it's like James Bond. There's different people who played the role, is my understanding, or different groundhogs. No, Brandon says no. Brandon, you want to explain it?
I don't understand how.
You want to come on the mic and explain that? No.
I'm almost 33 years old and I've never heard of this.
Yeah,
Claudia, did you know that?
I know this because my father, Sam Roop,
great guy,
is his birthday is Groundhog Day on Feb 2nd. So I'm steeped in Groundhog Day lore because of him.
Well, I am not. So thank you for the insight, Julie Swab. Thank you for the insight. Yeah. And on that note, we have a really great topic for you today, and we are going to introduce topic number 1 in our only topic. Thank you, Brandon. Roop is calling this 6 things that we have learned about producing a podcast and how you can start one.
We get this question a lot, actually, and it's embarrassing because we barely know what we're doing. But folks will ask us, what do you need? What's the equipment?
Whoa. You got to give us more credit than that.
I'll give Brandon a lot of credit. He's going to be noted on one of the
You're going
things.
to give us not much credit.
We're okay, but like the quality of the podcast is definitely elevated over time. There's no question about that.
And I had someone the other day that was telling me they were an early on listener. This was not Trent or Mike.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I listened to some of your first, and you guys have really improved the podcast.
There was nowhere to go but up. And
we've come a long way.
And there were iterations of the Littlefield podcast before this one. There was one that Chelsea and I did. There was one that
Chelsea
4 or 5
Colin,
people were calling.
You and Chelsea.
There's been a few. So we've learned a lot along the way. People ask us about it. They ask about the equipment you need, how you put scripts together, how frequently you record, how you publish it, all those things. And so we decided to write a POV article on littlefieldAgency.com. I think went up on LinkedIn yesterday evening.
Yeah. I saw it.
And it has all the details. We're not going to cover it, per usual, not as in depth on the podcast here. We're going to kind of skim through it. But if you want like links to legit equipment you can pony up for to do this stuff, Brandon put together a really nice list of that on that article. He just applauded for himself. This is why we have to get him off the soundboard.
Right.
There's a lot of
Claudia,
reasons. But
jump on there, please.
We're going to train her on that.
Let's start with your first couple of steps here, Roop.
There's 4 main things to think about or consider when you're trying to start a podcast. And the first one is, what's your topic and your format? Generally you need to talk about what you know, and that's certainly true here.
Of course.
Our scripts are not,
we
our
can
scripts
only
are name only.
so much.
Right. And you can't really read to people, like, that's boring. So, our scripts are usually bullet points of things we want to talk about. We kind of glance at it and then we riff.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You don't want to be too structured. One of our earlier versions of podcasts, I remember it was so rigid, so structured.
Yeah.
To your point about riffing, there's got to be some flow to it. Of course, you need to know the points that you need to hit on. And I know a lot of times we joke, like we're not prepared. We do a lot of prep, and then Roop and I talk a lot before we actually record to make sure we're on the same page. The only one that we really didn't was the Super Bowl commercials last week because we wanted to be surprised by each other's reaction.
Yeah, so that was legit. But you're doing it for a business. Obviously, you talk about your brand, your product or service, and the industries you're in. It's going to seem like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to talk about. I promise, though, if you sit down and just give it some thought, you'll be able to come up with quite a few different verticals to discuss. The second step in this is who's hosting. Yeah,
the big guy.
and the thing that we've discovered is personality matters here and chemistry. So if you're going to feature more than one host on your podcast, those people need to like each other. They need to be able to communicate and talk back and forth. I think how we do.
No, I was going to say, I think we play really well off of each other. There are some episodes where Roop does a lot of the talking and vice versa. We know when to jump and we know when to not. And here's the thing. You don't have to have a host. There's some great podcasts out there that are party of one.
Yeah, 100%.
I like having a co-host. I think it's super fun. We've done this for 3 years now.
And then we like it when we have a guest, right?
And then having a guest.
Take some pressure off of us.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So the host matters. So if you have someone that is like a big personality or enjoys being in front of the camera or behind the mic or doing your social media, because that person probably is maybe in some of your posts and things already, that's someone to tap into and look and try that out. The worst thing you could do is get someone who's going to bore your listeners, even though they may be a really smart person. Tap them for the script and let the host do the talking.
Bingo.
There you go.
I love it.
The third step on this, and this is one we learned absolutely the hard way, was your producer Brandon. And his equipment, his or her equipment, is very important. And there he is. He's maybe a little too important today.
He's feeling too much love today.
And by the way, this is the number one question is, how much is the equipment? What does it cost to get started? And this one can get really crazy really fast. Ask Sam.
Yeah. Roop loves to come to me and ask for money. It's okay. I love them. Here's the thing. When we first started, I think our budget was $500. I think we bought, and I don't even know if we had we had a soundboard.
We had a soundboard and 2 mics and we got the whole thing for I think it was like $200.
Yeah, maybe, $200. That is a very basic way to do it. You can spend up to, $50,000 if you want to do cameras and lights and all this stuff. And we haven't gone to that extent, but we have a pretty significant podcast budget this year, just in part of creating this studio. And here's the most important thing. And by the way, we're your partner and we're here to help you. If you have questions on this, we will send you some recommended, call it tiered gear and equipment. So hey, if you're looking, if your budget's $1,000, if it's $5,000, $10,000 plus, we'd be happy to steer you in the right direction. Brandon's budget, actually, that he has for this year, he hasn't pulled the trigger on everything because he wants to see how we're going to evolve this and what we actually need. But a good camera.
If you're going to do video, you want a good camera. You can get away with your iPhone. I think
totally
Jay Swedelson may even use his
we had our
camera on his
iPhones.
computer.
Yeah, and I'd love to ask Jay about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's what's your appetite for it. But I would say if you're getting started, don't go in full hog and buy all the expensive equipment. Learn what you need and what you don't, and start small and grow from there.
Yeah, and on this, when you first start, so Roop and I, we had a handshake deal. We're only going to miss this if we're very, very sick or we're on vacation. Yeah. Right? And I think we've missed, in the total of 3 years, 4 episodes.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, 3
Not
or 4.
too many.
It is very, 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 very important that you stick to it, because your first few episodes are going to be time consuming. Before Brandon was here,
oh boy,
holy mother of God.
Yeah, from record to live would take about 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Now we have this from record to live.
If Brandon doesn't have real work to do.
Doesn't have real client
about
work.
An hour, I'd say.
Would you say hour and a half, Brandon? 2 hours.
Oh, he's saying 2 to 3. 2 to 3.
He is also a perfectionist.
Yeah, that's true.
So you could probably get this, but when you first start this off, you're going to be doing it for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, pretty easy, and probably with results like I had that were very frustrating. Yeah, but stick with it; you'll get better and better and better.
Step number 4,
fourth one. So for Little Talk, this is about getting it out there. How do you actually publish it and get it listed on platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and
SoundCloud
and all that? The truth is, if you have a really good setup for it, it has to live somewhere. So you can either have it live on your own website. We used to use a WordPress plugin called Seriously Simple Podcasting, and you upload the files and the descriptions and everything there, and then it distributes it out to its various platforms. Like you get to pick them. There's a little page you check. I want to be on these platforms, not these. And by the way, I found out there's hundreds and hundreds of these platforms, most of which you've never heard of. It doesn't cost you anything to submit to them, so do that. That's what we used to use. We recently changed to a platform called Buzzsprout, and it's actually a little better. It gives us kind of higher and better analytics overall. It's a little faster for me to produce and put out on there than Seriously Simple Podcasting was. But there's tons, and again, it's what your appetite for cost. I think we pay $10 a month for Buzzsprout, something like that.
Nice.
Which is
I like that budget.
Yeah. I looked for a more expensive one, but I couldn't find one.
Part of it getting out there too. So while Roop does the prep, I do the actual write up, and then Brandon does all the post. That write up is important. We try to aim for at least 500 words for SEO purposes. Yep. You do a great job in providing that article that goes out usually the day before on the topic. Yeah. But having a little bit of a write-up and not just the video segment or just the audio recording is important for SEO.
And make sure it's living on your website somewhere, because it's a big SEO tool for you. And that write-up is, like Sam said, allows for you to inject keywords about the topic and your industry and your brand in there that are going to help you along the way. And you have to write it up anyhow. Like you have anywhere you're submitting it, you have to have kind of a description as it is anyhow. So go ahead and spend some time to write that up. Like I said, that's a division of labor here. Sam ends up writing what you see on the website while I'm working on getting the files ready. Brandon's getting the files edited. And then there's the final part of that where it gets promoted on different channels, and Claudia's doing that for us right now. So
she's crushing it too.
She is crushing it. So it's a she didn't push it. That was actually Brandon.
Attaboy.
So it is a team effort. We have seen it be from a one-man show all the way up to 4 or 5 people working on it. I would say 4 and 5 easily better, which leads us to 6 things we learned the hard way. Yep. Let's get a ding for that. Oh, and a drum roll.
Take it away, Roop.
All right. So the 6 things we learned the hard way over the last couple of years of doing this is record your podcast live and keep the editing as simple as possible for your producer. Yep. And that was originally something that was selfish for me because I didn't want to have to do a lot of editing. It was very time consuming. But I know Brandon also appreciates that as our producer.
Yep.
If you can just shoot live, and every so often, very, very rarely, we may have say something or something that we have to, there's an equipment failure or something happens, and you have to clip a little bit out. But by and large, what we do now,
what you're seeing is pretty much
is live. That's exactly what we go to to the file with. So record live if you can. It'll make things easier all the way across the line.
This second one was Roop and Brandon's idea a year ago. Pre-record an intro and an outro. Brenda is phenomenal. She used to be on-air talent, did a lot of voiceover work for ESPN back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So she's a natural. If you have someone at your business, your agency, whatever, it's totally worth. And I mean, Brandon, we've done a lot of iterations. We did it at our Christmas party this last year. We've done it in Brandon's office. We have another idea that we're not going to tell you yet. But
we have big plans.
We have some big plans.
Yeah.
That's huge, and she kind of has become the face of this podcast in the sense of opening it up. If you watch her video,
one of the goals for us on the podcast is so people get to know who we are and the faces and folks that are here and work at Littlefield that you may be interacting with if you come to work with us. And so having Brenda on there is one more face, one more opportunity, and it felt like a waste of talent too, because she's sitting there she's great at voice.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So we just wanted to tap into that. The third thing we learned is mix up your location if possible to keep the visual version of your podcast interesting. And last year we did a lot of moving around. We went to the big stand-up table in the front. We went to the platform over by the account folks. We were in the diner. We had that little weird circle area over in the back here where all the meeting areas are. And now we're in the studio again. We had the old studio. Now we have the new studio.
But see, I don't know if I want to leave the studio anymore.
Yeah, Sam and I have a disagreement on this.
Yeah.
I think
we've got healthy tension here. I want to stay here forever. It was great mixing up last year.
I bet this is our home, no doubt. And
maybe once a quarter, Brandon. Yeah, Brandon wants to stay here too.
He says no to stay here. Well, we'll see what happens. I predict by the end of summer we will have moved around to a couple more spots again because we have other new spaces.
You want to bet dinner on it?
Don't you owe me one from last year?
I do owe you a dinner.
So yes, I will bet that. Anyhow, if you're doing a visual, make sure that the main point there is make sure your background or your setting is something interesting and not taking you over, not too busy.
So this next one, and we're not the best at this still, but that's okay.
We're getting there.
One topic per episode. Sometimes we'll do two. Hey, here's our 2 thoughts of the day. We started with 3 or 4. Way too much information.
Way too much.
And it would be like what you say for email, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to put 3 topics in an email that you're sending to your B2B clients. It's information overload. So keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah.
KISS. So one topic per episode is a great way to go about it.
And if you're wondering,
keeps us more focused.
And going back to that first step on, getting your topics and your format together. One thing you can kind of think about in terms of finding topics. Hey, Brandon, it got really loud. See, he may edit that. Is he going to edit that? No, he says, I would leave that in. See, we do it live.
It's natural.
One of the ways you can find your topics that you may go back and look at your website, your company's blog posts, or for us POVs or whatever, and the first reaction is every article equals a script. That's not necessarily true. Every article can actually break down into 3 or 4 different scripts or 3 or 4 different episodes. So trying to really focus in on a single topic and shooting for a shorter podcast. You can do longer ones, and certainly a lot of people do, but we find somewhere in the 15 to 20 minute range is a sweet spot.
And last week was 25 minutes. This week
probably
20-ish minutes.
I'm going to say 21.
Okay,
we'll see where we land.
We'll get in there soon. You mentioned that serialized content is what you called it. Coming back from inbound last year, I think it's a great way to approach it.
Yeah.
These last 2, Roop, what do you think?
Well, this one's kind of important. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Create a dedicated place on your website to feature your podcast episodes. Again, helps your SEO tremendously, but you really need this so you can share links to your podcast on platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn. And that way you're sharing it just like you would share any other article, and it formats correctly and shows up there. That was not something we had in our first couple of iterations of the podcast that we started. I think when you and I started recording together. So that helped a lot. And then can I do the last one?
Please.
So this actually started the whole idea for this particular episode. Brandon and I were talking about this. Do not have one of your hosts double as the producer. It's just too much to do at once. I used to do this.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah. You had to start somewhere, right? But I used to run the audio equipment and for a while the camera, and I did the editing, and I was writing the script, and I was doing everything. And I'm not that talented. Across the board. Give
yourself more credit. It's too much.
It's just too much. And so, if your hosts are comfortable getting in front of the mic and talking, consider yourself lucky and let them just do that. Don't make them double pushing buttons or doing anything else.
And no, it's a great point. I mentioned this earlier. Stick with it. It really is. There were days where like, oh my gosh, like we don't want to record.
That'd
let's
be the
skip this week.
seventh bonus tip.
And there's days where we're not vibing. Like, I mean, our energy's a little bit low, or someone had a bad. It's inevitable, and that's just part of going with the ever evolving episodes that we're constantly producing, right?
Yeah, hang on. I've gotten a note from the producer, which I think came from his associate producer over there. Say it out loud, Brandon. He won't do it. He sent me a text with a picture of, I said Puxatawny Phil. I guess it's Puxatawny Phil.
That rings a bell. Puxatawny.
I wonder if the predecessor was Puxatawny, and then he died, and it was Puxatawny, and they just kind of changed a letter here and there. We'll look into that for you and find out.
We digress. So as you start this up, and here's the thing. You're going to start from the bottom, and you get to a greater point eventually. We started, and we were lucky if we had 6 to 10 listeners an episode.
And that was our family.
And Mike and Trent.
Yes.
and John Mosh.
Yeah.
Truly, there were 3 people outside of our wives that listened to this. Occasionally, Chelsea, if she made an appearance.
Our wives did not always listen.
Yeah, no, I don't even know if Tara listens anymore. But here we are now. And we have anywhere from a few hundred to multiple hundred to 1,000 listeners.
Yeah, I think we're hitting around 750 a day
and
or something like that.
That's awesome. When we started this podcast, did we ever think that was going to be the case? No, to be completely honest. I just enjoyed this time. And here's the thing, right? As you think about your prospective clients, customers, engaged prospects, current clients, it is a great touch point. People that know, love, and trust you, they want to hear from you. And this is why we started this. Mm-hmm. And here's the wonderful thing: our friendship and our business relationship with Grasshopper has changed since this podcast. It gives us great topics to talk through. Sean Hubbard at Ditch Witch and the Ditch Witch team listens to this from time to time. It is a great thought starter. I've got multiple prospects right now that I'm talking to. One lady in particular just got back to me last week. We're going to get in on a pitch later in the spring and summer. And she goes, by the way, I really love Little Talks. And she called it Little Talks. She sent me a note, and I thought that was really cool. So thank you to that wonderful person that has been an active listener.
Anyone that listens to this is incredible, so thank you for that. And I would say one other area we've noticed, if you're recruiting or you're hiring.
Great point.
Every single person that comes through that is interviewed here is not only referenced that they listen to it, they make some detailed note about something that happened 15 minutes into it that just blows my mind.
No, it's always cool.
Like, there's kind of a lot of benefit to it. It seemed, we were like, it's kind of a dumb thing. We're just going to do it for a while, but like, it works out. It really is a growing medium again.
Yeah. So there you have it. There's some steps. There's some takeaways.
More details on the website.
Go and start a podcast.
Yeah, have fun.
I talked to someone the other day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you have blog posts, but no one really reads that." And I was like, "Yeah, have you checked out our podcast?" She said, "No." So go check it out. So you're gonna love it.
I think people read them,
and I still think people do. She was very young.
Well,
nothing against that, but
Claudia, do you read blogs? She says yes. She sternly says yes. Yes, I do.
I don't know if I believe Claudia, but I love it.
I know. I'm learning. I'm learning to kind of gauge her responses.
So go start a podcast. Send us a link when you start that podcast.
We'd love to listen.
We would love to listen, and we wish you the best on that endeavor. Next week we have a guest speaker, and stay tuned because he's going to be great.
Oh yes, forgot about that.
That's right. We'll see you then.
Adios.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed our little chat and found ways to grow your own marketing strategies. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on social media @Littlefield Agency.